What's up, guys? Back with a brand new video, or should I say, the first video, with Jared here. Welcome
Hi,
to the podcast.
thank you. Thanks for having me.
As you guys know, this is the first episode. I don't think Jared knows this, but I've already recorded it, but my audio did not work, so I'm redoing the whole thing. But at least I got a guest this time. All right, so as you see, we are going through our predictions for the playoffs this season. Um, so let's get into it. The first matchup is the Leafs versus the Canadians. I think this is kind of an obvious answer for us. I think the Leafs are gonna move on. It's not like they're doing really good this year. They're getting Nick Foligno. Willie's coming back. Freddie might be even coming back. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, so I agree with you there. I would take the Leafs beating Montreal. I think Montreal is a good team. I think they have a lot of good players. However, overall, I just think the Leafs are the heavy favorite in the North Division, and at least in the first round, I do see them moving on. I think they have a lot more star power, but also have a lot more depth. Obviously, they have the stars like Matthews and Marner, Nylander, all these other players, but they also did a great job at the deadline, adding some depth pieces, such as Nick Foligno, of course, as you mentioned. A lot of other players. Their depth is just really good. They have veterans, they have grit, and overall, I just see them being the team that will eliminate Montreal. Again, if things stay the way they are right now, the Leafs are the first place team regular season wise in the North Division. And I finally do see it translating into the playoffs. I think they have enough of a deep team that there should be no issues in the playoffs, and I do see them winning that first round against Montreal.
Yeah, for sure. This is a bit of a off-topic question, but since we're getting all these players coming in, Foligno's coming back. Well, obviously we have the extra players, but one player's gonna have to get kicked out of the lineup because of all the players coming back. Because obviously we have Matthews, Will Nylander, and then Nick Foligno's gonna come in. So, who do you think is gonna be taken out of the lineup when Foligno comes in?
It's actually a good question. I'm not sure. I really think these next few games, like there's around a dozen games left in the year. There's about 12 left in the year. So I think this next stretch is going to be a lot of trial and error from Keefe and from Dubas, of course, as the general manager and as the coach for Keefe. I think it's going to be a lot of trial and error, taking people out of the lineup, putting different people into the lineup, and kind of seeing what works. I could see Joe Thornton sitting out a few games. Um, I don't know. It's a really good question, actually. I'm not entirely sure. I think for this next stretch of games to finish out the season, there's going to be different people in and out on a nightly basis. But then when we get to the playoffs, it's really they're going to go with what the best lineup is. And if that means that Joe Thornton or a guy like Wayne Simmons isn't in the lineup every night, if that's our best chance of getting a good roster, then that's what they'll do. I'm really not sure. I think it's actually a really good question. I'm not sure. I think for now, Joe Thornton, the way he's been playing these last few games, we could definitely get away with not having him in the lineup every game. However, I do think he's a good enough player that he should, at least when it comes to playoff time, he should get into the lineup most nights. Obviously, he's a big veteran, and we want to get him that Stanley Cup. So I think he'll play most nights. I think Simmons gives a lot of fighting and grit into our lineup, so he should be in the lineup. Um, I'm not sure actually. Riley Nash, he hasn't stepped into the lineup yet. Of course, he's injured, but we'll see come playoff time how he does. And if he isn't the player that we're hoping he can be, if he doesn't work in our lineup, I could see him just slotting out of the lineup and staying on the taxi squad. Maybe Robertson gets back out of the lineup. Of course, he's been in the lineup for the past 2 games, but hasn't been able to stick in the lineup for most of the year. And it's possible that with guys coming back, maybe he'll find his way on the taxi squad again. It's really up to Keefe and up to Dubas what they think is the best chance for us to win a Stanley Cup and our best lineup. I'm going to leave that up to them. There's a lot of different options the team could do. It's possible they'll do a different lineup on every night and constantly change it up. But really, that's up to them and up to the coaching staff and all that stuff to make those decisions. There's a lot of different ways the Leafs could play it. I don't know. It's an interesting question, though.
Yep. Okay, so on to the next matchup. We have the Jets v Oilers. Um, they've really been having a battle for who's going to be second and third, but now that it's going we're closer to the end of the season, and Winnipeg's in the lead, it's kind of showing that Winnipeg is, in my opinion, it's kind of showing that Winnipeg is going to be the second in the division if they keep up what they're doing right now. So, I don't know. Yeah, I'd say I think Winnipeg's definitely going to beat the Oilers, even though the Oilers have the amazing chemistry with Draisaitl and McDavid together on the same line. But yeah.
Winnipeg. Yeah, I completely agree with that as well. I definitely am going to say Winnipeg over the Edmonton Oilers. As much as Edmonton, they do have obviously that two-headed monster of they have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. They also around Connor McDavid and Draisaitl, they have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, of course. They have Darnell Nurse, who's having a very good offensive year. Tyson Barrie's having a very good offensive year. But I just don't see them being that all-around team that the Winnipeg Jets are. The Winnipeg Jets definitely don't have a player like a McDavid or a Draisaitl. However, they're just a more deep and overall all-around team. Of course, they have guys like Mark Scheifele, Blake Wheeler. They have Kyle Connor, Nikolai Ehlers, who's having an unbelievable season, and also that goalie tandem of mainly Connor Hellebuck. Is just such an unbelievable goalie that I think that is a goalie that's capable of stealing you a series. And even though if McDavid and Draisaitl really go off and play to the level that they're capable of, I could see the Oilers going on a run. However, I just think there's such a lack of depth on Edmonton behind their top few guys that I don't see that being the recipe for success in the playoffs. You could kind of see in past years with the Leafs is a good example where, yeah, they've had the superstars, but they didn't really have the depth behind that. And clearly that didn't work out in the playoffs. Now the Leafs have done a very good job of acquiring that depth, and now we're hoping for a different result in the playoffs. But I just don't see enough depth around the Stars in Edmonton to justify sending them on a long playoff run. So I do think I would take the Winnipeg Jets over them. Again, you look at the goalie comparison, it's either Mike Smith or Mikko Koskinen in net in Edmonton, and it's Connor Hellebuck and I guess Laurent Brossoit in Winnipeg. So I just think Winnipeg is such a stronger goalie tandem, mainly because of Hellebuck, who I consider to be the best goalie in the league right now. And I just think there's enough depth in Winnipeg. They also acquired Pierre-Luc Dubois. There's enough depth in Winnipeg that I just see that being more of a recipe for success in the playoffs when compared to Edmonton.
Yeah, for sure. So the next matchup is Colorado versus St. Louis. In my opinion, I think this is a no-brainer. I think the Colorado Avalanche are going to win. They have Nathan McKinnon, they have Mikko Rantanen, Gabriel Landeskog. They also have not Bowen Byram. Who am I for? I think it's Cale Makar who's doing really good this year. They also have Philip Grubauer.
Okay.
I think.
McCarthy a lot of the year, but he's still an unbelievable defenseman.
Yeah, I think Philip Grubauer is doing really good for the team. I'm pretty sure he's injured right now. But
I believe you're right, but he's still, like Colorado is, as of now, they are the first place team in the league as of the day we're recording this. They are an unbelievable team.
I'm just gonna see who's injured. So yeah, Grubauer is out because of COVID reasons. So I think right now Devin Dubnyk's starting for them, which is still okay, but Grubauer might not be in for that whole first match. Actually, no. Well, when did the playoffs start, May?
Start middle of May.
Yeah.
They also have Pavel Francouz, though.
Yeah, Pavel Francouz, he's not supposed to come back until next year. So it looks like their tandem. It looks like right now Devin Dubnyk is their starter. When Gruber comes back, I think it's gonna be a nasty tandem with Grubauer and Dubnyk, but I think Grubauer is gonna get the better side on the starts. But yeah, I think with everyone they have, Mikko Rantanen doing really good this year, 26 goals. Also Nathan McKinnon with 36 assists. It's like there's so many good teams out there that are probably going to the playoffs that have so many dirty duos and maybe even trios. Like, look at Boston. Yeah, I'd say Boston with Marchand, Pasternak, and Bergeron.
Yeah.
Just everybody. Just this Colorado Avalanche team is looking so good. going into the playoffs, that I think they're definitely going to beat the St. Louis Blues.
I agree with you there as well. I think if you look at a series of Colorado versus St. Louis, I'm definitely picking Colorado to win that. St. Louis is a very good team. Of course, they won the Stanley Cup in 2019, just not too long ago, a few years ago. But I still just think when you look at the rosters compared, Colorado is just such a strong lineup, and I personally don't have them winning the cup. However, they are the overall favorite to win the cup. They are right now in the regular season the best team right now. They actually didn't start the year very strong, but since then, as of the last month or so, they have really picked it up and played like the team everyone expected them to be. They have, again, that top line is one of the best lines in the league, obviously, as you mentioned, compared with the Bruins' top line. But Gabriel Landeskog, Nathan MacKinnon, and Mikko Rantanen, you can make an argument that that's one of the best lines in the league. They also have guys like Nazem Kadri, Brandon Saad. They just acquired Carl Soderberg from Chicago. They're just such a deep offensive team. And also on defense, they have guys like Devin Tays and Cale Makar, Eric Johnson as well. They're just such a strong team overall. And again, as you mentioned, Philip Grubauer, he's injured right now. But when he's healthy, he's one of the best goalies in the league. Not the best goalie in the league, but he's in the conversation. It may have a lot to do with him being on a really good team. However, he does have very strong goaltending numbers. I actually have him as my goalie in fantasy. So he's really good. I just think overall, Colorado, I would take them to win a series against St. Louis and move on to that second round. I think they are a strong team. I don't know how far I see them going in the playoffs. I feel like a lot of the reason that people have them going super far is based on those big name stars. But they also do have a ton of depth around them. They are a very strong team. You'll see what happens in the rest of my predictions, however, but I do think for that first round, they are going to move on.
Like Carl Soderberg, they acquired. I think he was on the Avalanche, and then he went to the
Wasn't that
Blackhawks.
Avalanche? Then in the off season, I believe he was traded to Chicago, and then they acquired him back at the deadline.
Well, I think just Colorado with those big name stars, definitely. I see them going far in the playoffs. Do you want to start the next matchup?
Sure. So the next matchup, it's the Vegas Golden Knights versus the Minnesota Wild. And as much as I've loved the story with Minnesota this year, this Kirill Kaprizov kid has come over from the KHL and he's absolutely tore it up. Heavy favorite to win the Calder for Rookie of the Year. But at the same time, I still am taking the Vegas Golden Knights any day of the week to beat the Minnesota Wild in the series. They're just, I don't know how Vegas did it. This is, I believe, is it their fourth or their fifth year in the NHL?
Well, they joined in 2018.
It was 2017. This would be.
The draft was in 2017. They joined in 2018. So this would be their fourth year. Third year. Fourth year.
Well, no, their first year in the NHL. It was the 2018 playoffs, so they started in 2017. Regardless, whether it's their fourth or fifth year in the league, in that time they've developed such a strong team. They, of course, this year just acquired Alex Pietrangelo. They also brought along Max Pacioretty, Mark Stone, so many other strong players. They have Alex Tuch as well. They are just such a deep team, and I really see them having an unbelievable playoffs this year. And I think that starts with them winning this first round series against the Minnesota Wild. Minnesota's been actually a very surprisingly fun and exciting team to watch this year. For past years, their reputation has been they're slow and boring and not that fun to watch. But this year, mainly to do with them getting Kirill Kaprizov, they're actually a surprisingly really fun and exciting team. Again, they have Kirill Kaprizov, but they also have guys like Matt Zuccarello, who's having a really good year. They do have a fairly strong team, and I am pretty confident they are going to stay in their playoff spot right now in the West Division. I just don't think they have the star power available to take on the Vegas Golden Knights and win that series. I think they'll compete for it. I don't think they're going to get swept or anything, but I don't see them taking Vegas very far. I think it would probably go to about 5 or 6 games, and from there, Vegas' star power would just take over. Vegas is such a combination of being both feisty, gritty, but also very strong offensively and defensively. They're just overall, in these few years they've been in the NHL, they've developed one of the best teams in the league, and I don't think it's enough. Minnesota has enough to be able to take that on.
Yeah. One thing that I agree with you on Vegas winning. But one thing I really think stands out on Vegas' side is that their tandem in Robin Lehner and Marc-Andre Fleury. But one thing that I think is even more stands out is Marc-Andre Fleury was supposed to be the backup this year, and right now he's a starter, and he's one of the best in the league, maybe even the best goalie in the league as of right now.
Yeah, he's definitely a heavy favorite for the Vezina.
The Vegas Golden Knights just have so many star players on their team. Like you've been saying, Alex Pietrangelo. I'm pretty sure Max Pacioretty. No, not him, but kind of. He's okay. They have Mark Stone, first year as the Vegas captain, doing really good. They just have so many good players. Even though Minnesota has definitely players that that have been helping them into this spot. Like you said, Kirill Kaprizov, he's such a good player right now. Also, like you said, he's probably the front runner for the Calder, unless someone else steps up, which I doubt that's going to happen because there's only about a month left in the regular season. But I totally agree with you there. I think it's easy to say that Vegas would win. So let's go into the next matchup. Washington versus Boston. Now this is kind of an interesting one because both of those teams traded for top tier forwards. Boston got Taylor Hall and Washington got Anthony Mantha. I think they both scored a goal already on their new team. I think so. And both of those teams have just been playing really good this year. I mean, Boston obviously, since they're the 4th seed in the East Division, they're not playing as good as the Washington Capitals. The Washington Capitals have been doing amazing. Alex Ovechkin definitely. They have decent goalies, but like it's surprising to see them this good with not that much like of a all-star caliber goalie. Like last year they had Holtby before he started taking a step down, and now he's in Vancouver. But I think Washington's definitely gonna beat the Boston Bruins.
I agree with that as well. As much as I think Boston is such a strong team, they obviously have that top line of Bergeron, Marchand, and Pasternak, which is arguably one of the best lines in the league. And now adding in a guy like Taylor Hall, the fact that Taylor Hall is a second-line left winger is just terrifying, especially from a Leafs fan's perspective. That is a team I don't really like a lot, and they just got even better. But I still don't see it being enough to take on the Washington Capitals. I just think I see one more run. Call it a gut feeling, but I think it's one more run is in need for the Washington Capitals. And I really see them having a strong playoffs this year. I think Boston is a very strong team. They also have a good goalie tandem in Tuukka Rask and Yaroslav Halak. They're a very strong team. They're strong defensively. They have hitters. They have grit. They're just an overall unbelievable team. But I still just see Washington Capitals mainly on the back of Alex Ovechkin, Evgeny Kuznetsov, Nicholas Backstrom, now acquiring Anthony Mantha. I just see another run for that team. John Carlson as well. They just really are a strong team. It's likely going to be Vitek Vansenek as their goalie to start because I believe Ilya Samsonov is injured right now or just coming off of an injury. That's allowed for Vansenek to start most of the year. However, he's actually doing surprisingly really well. He wasn't a big name going into the year, but he's allowing for Washington to be one of the most competitive teams in arguably the most competitive division. They are, again, first place in the East Division, which is considered to be the most stacked. And I don't know. I don't see Washington's, I don't know what you call it, but Washington's miracle run, the fact that they're leading this division, I don't see it stopping at the end of the regular season. I see them having a very strong playoffs. They're just such a deep and strong team. And I really see it carrying over into this first round. And as much as it would probably be an absolute war, probably a Game 7 series, I do see Washington coming away with that win.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that I just realized is Tuukka Rask just got off an injury, so it's gonna be a bit hard it's gonna be a bit annoying that he has to get better. Cause how long was he out for?
I'm actually not sure. I believe it was a while, but I don't know an actual timeline.
Yeah, so Halak and Rask were out at one point. Halak is still out. He will be back for the playoffs if everything goes as planned. But yeah, I think just this Washington team is too good for the Bruins. The next one, the next matchup is the Islanders versus the Penguins. I mean, in my opinion, I think the Penguins have been very surprising this year, being better than Boston even. They traded for obviously veteran Jeff Carter, which, did he score a goal? I'm pretty sure he scored a goal with them.
I'm not sure if he did actually. I know like Mantha scored on the Capitals. I know what's his name? Verona scored on Detroit.
Yeah,
I know Taylor
players. Yeah.
Boston, but I'm not sure if Carter scored in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, a lot of players are already scoring on their new team. But yeah, in my New York got what's his name, Palmieri and Travis Zajac in a gigantic trade. I don't. In my opinion, I don't think Palmieri is worth a first-round pick. But since New Jersey's not been playing that good this year, and obviously they're looking for prospects, good players for the future, they wanted that first, and they had to give up Palmieri and Zajac for it, but it was definitely worth it for them. Also, they got two other players like Mason Jobs and something Greer. I don't know, but yeah. The Islanders also have been playing really good this year as the second seed in the East Division. I think the Islanders are going to come on top. Just, they have so many good players. Anders Lee, I'm pretty sure he's out for the rest of the season. He's been out for a while at this point.
Yeah, so I'm going to agree with you there. I'm also going to take the New York Islanders to beat the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think if you look at their roster side by side, I think Pittsburgh has a lot more star power. Of course, they have Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, Jake Gensel, Brian Rust. They have a lot more bigger name guys, Chris Letang. But I still just think the Islanders are such a deep team that's honestly built for playoff hockey. And they're definitely not a team I would want the Leafs to play. I think they are so strong. Not even with their goal scoring ability. Obviously, they have Matthew Barzal. When looking at the Islanders, like they do have their a share of superstars and guys who could score. But what's scary about their team is the fact that they're so strong on the defensive side of the puck. They're just such a strong defensive team, and they are not a team that I would like anyone that I'm a fan of to play in the playoffs. And I really think they're going to beat Pittsburgh in that first round matchup if the rounds stay the same as they are right now. I just think the Islanders are such a strong team. They're built for playoff hockey, and I really don't see them getting eliminated in the first round. I can honestly, you'll see what happens in my predictions. I don't have them going all the way. However, I do see them going on a fairly deep playoff run. I think they're such a strong team, and I really don't see how Pittsburgh is taking them on. In the past, when these teams have played, I believe last year the Islanders actually swept the Penguins. I don't see that happening again. I think it would probably go to about 6 games and maybe 7 games. But I just think ultimately, even though Pittsburgh has the star power, I think that would get overshadowed by the depth and the defensive ability and the constant wearing down that the Islanders do. Obviously, they have one of the best coaches in the league in Barry Trotz. And I think he constantly keeps that team working and hungry and wanting to win games. And I think that'll carry them through into at least the second round of the playoffs.
One thing that I'm just looking at this one thing I find out very weird is Johnny Boychuk. He got injured in the eye, and he's not supposed to come back till May 2022.
Oh. Actually, I heard about that. Yeah, it's very scary.
I'm guessing maybe he got a puck to the eye or something. But yeah,
I do remember seeing something like on Instagram talking about that. Very scary story. I don't know all the details, but just from what I've heard, a very scary injury.
Yeah. So do you want to start the next matchup?
Sure. So this is the next matchup is in the Central Division, and it's the Tampa Bay Lightning taking on the Nashville Predators. As much as Nashville is a good team that has turned it on as of late, I really don't see how they take down the Tampa Bay Lightning, arguably the best team in the league right now. Even though they aren't first place in the league, they are still the reigning Stanley Cup champions, and you can make an argument that they're only getting better. They haven't even had Kucherov play yet. He actually just got off of LTIR because Stamkos went on long-term injury reserve. So they're only seeing their first game of Stamkos coming soon. They're just such a deep and strong team, and I really don't see them getting out in the first round. Obviously, 2 years ago, they ended up getting swept in the first round by Columbus, but I do believe they've grown from that loss, and they are going to beat the Nashville Predators. Again, Nashville does have some weapons. They are a strong team, not a weak team by any means. They have Philip Forsberg, Mikael Granlund, Ryan Johansson, so many other good players. Also, they're
Roman
very strong.
Josi.
Then I was going to say, obviously, they're very strong defensively as well. They have Roman Josi and Matthias Ekholm and Ryan Ellis. So they are a very deep team overall, but I just don't see how that beats a team of, in the playoffs, they will have Steven Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov, Yanni Gord, Braden Point, Victor Hedman. Arguably, like, I believe it's Connor Hellebuyck is the best goalie in the league, but you can very well make an argument for Andre Vasilevsky being the best goalie in the league. They're just such a deep team on all aspects of the ice, whether it be forwards, defense, their depth forwards, their depth defensemen, just all the people in their organization are just so strong. They want to win another Stanley Cup. They're going to compete hard in order to go back to back. And I don't see how they get eliminated first round again. They've learned from their mistake in 2019 when they got eliminated first round. And I think they want another Stanley Cup. They want to go back to back, and I really see them taking down the Nashville Predators, and I'd say probably 5 or maybe 6 games. I don't know if it would be a sweep. I don't know if Nashville would even be able to take. Tampa is just such a strong and dominant team. They just know how to outwork, outscore, outplay teams. They're purely star power. They have their star power, but they're not just purely star power is what I meant to say. They have star power, but they also have their depth guys. They have their depth defensemen. They're just so strong all around, and I really see them moving on in the playoffs.
Yeah, so I have to agree with you there. In my opinion, I'd say, I wouldn't say next year, but 2-3 years, Nashville is definitely going to be a cup contender with Eeli Tolvanen definitely getting better, and they have quite a few decent young players that are just getting better and better. But yeah, Tampa's just an amazing team. Like you said, Kucherov's probably going to come back. Like Vasilevsky, it's just an amazing goalie. Like they're like they're definitely trying to go for another cup with everyone they have. Like last year, obviously it was kind of different, but this year I think I don't think they made much. I don't think they signed really anyone.
Like, they didn't really change their roster all that much from the cup winning roster. Like they didn't blow it up at all.
Yeah, they only lost like Bogosian and stuff like that.
Yep.
But yeah, Tampa's just an outstanding team with everyone they have. Their first line is, I think, Point and They put Point and Stamkos together on the first line when Stamkos was in. But I think when Kucherov comes in, it's going to be like too good of a lineup. Also, they have Victor Hedman on defense. Ryan McDonough he's okay. I mean, he's kind of a vet now or getting older. But
yeah.
Their defense core is definitely still good right now, and I think they soon enough, like all their players are gonna get old, and like since they have players that have been in the league for a while, I think they try and get as many cups as they can, because soon enough all their players are just gonna be old. So yeah, I definitely see Tampa beating Nashville in this matchup. So let's go to the next one. This is a very interesting one because Carolina and Florida have been doing really good this year. I'm pretty sure right now, Tampa. I'm pretty sure right now Tampa. Tampa and Carolina are tied, and Florida's just 1 point behind. They're really just fighting for that. I'd say they're fighting for their 1, 2, and 3, but Nashville and Colorado, maybe even Chicago, Nashville and Chicago, and also maybe Dallas are fighting for that 4th spot in the division. But yeah, I think Carolina's going to beat Florida. Carolina's been super surprising this year. Like, they've been doing good with the roster they have. Svechnikov is also out, and they're still doing really good. I think they're definitely going to beat the Panthers. The Panthers did definitely upgrade their roster from last year. They also got Montour in this deadline. They also got Sam Bennett. I'm pretty sure both of them are already played or something. But they have so many good players on their team. Huberdeau, Barkov, I won't say Hornqvist is really good, but I'd say Hornqvist is definitely a depth player for them.
He's a veteran in the league.
Yeah, I see Carolina beating Florida. It's just Carolina's better team in my opinion, with the players they have going that far, doing this good. Yeah, for
sure. For me, as much as I do agree that Carolina is probably the likely favorite in that, I was looking at both of our predictions compared, and I realized that if I were to say that Carolina is winning this series, we would have the entire first round the same predictions, which I didn't want to do. So I actually changed my prediction and said that the Panthers are going to win this series. As much as on paper, I do think Carolina is the better team. Of course, even though Svechnikov has been injured, he is still expected to be back for the playoffs. So they have Sebastian Aho. They will hopefully have Andrei Svechnikov back. They just have such a deep lineup overall. They have a strong defense core as well. They have Jacob Slavin and Brett Pesce. And then in net, they have James Reimer, who's been surprisingly good. They've had Peter Mrazek. They've had, I don't really know how to pronounce his name, but Nedeljkovic. He's been really good in net as well. So they've just been overall a very good team. And as much as it's not such a surprise because they were a good team last year as well, it's still cool to see that they're maintaining that success and staying a dominant team in the league. But you look at Florida, they are a team that for years everyone has been saying, this is the year they finally do it. This is the year they finally do it. And they've never really had a year that they were so strong. And then finally this year, they didn't change all that much. They changed their lineup minorly. They obviously acquired Hornqvist, and at this deadline, they acquired Montour and Bennett, as you mentioned. But still, they're just playing like such a strong team. Finally, the team that people expected them to be year after year. Barkov is having an absolutely unbelievable year. Huberdeau is having another unbelievable year. They're just such a strong team overall. And I do actually see it translating into the playoffs because they are a fairly deep team. And as much as it would be an absolute war, probably a Game 7 series. And I wouldn't be surprised if Carolina were to win that series. However, I am going to say that I think Florida's moving on, not even to mention their goalie situation. They had Bobrovsky, but he's missed a few games. But they've also had Christian Drager, who's actually been really good this year, and I actually picked him up in fantasy in one of my leagues. He's a great goalie. His numbers are really good right now, and he is helping the Florida Panthers be that dominant team that they've been trying to be year after year. And I do think they're actually going to move on in the series. Might not be a long playoff run because they're going to have to face off against the Tampa Bay Lightning if they move on, most likely. But still, I do see them moving on to that second round, beating the Carolina Hurricanes in what I'd probably say is a 6 or 7 game series. And then I do see them moving on to play those Tampa Bay Lightning in the Central Division.
Yeah, so this is kind of convenient because the matchup we're going on to is the Winnipeg Jets. But breaking news just like a minute ago, Adam Lowry extends his contract for 5 years, $3.25 mil. That was literally right now, not planned at all. So let's go into the series now, which is Toronto versus Winnipeg. This year it's definitely been a rivalry with both of those teams playing each other. I mean, Winnipeg has Hellebuck. Like against the Leafs, I think he's better than any other team. Like in the North, he's like a brick wall. I'd say Hellebuck is definitely one of the best goalies in the league right now. But I think Toronto's going to come on top again. Toronto just has everything they need. Like when the playoffs start, they're going to have everything they need to go all the way through. Toronto just has all that. John Tavares, like if Austin Matthews or John Tavares is out, they still have one of those players. Like having John Tavares on your second line is definitely showing that you're a cup caliber team.
So I agree with you. I'm going to have the Leafs moving on to the third round and facing the teams outside of the North Division. It's going to be tough. I think out of any of the teams in the North, the one I would not want to play in the playoffs is the Winnipeg Jets. I think they're such a deep and such a strong team, as I mentioned at the beginning. They're so deep, so strong, and have arguably the best goalie in the league in Connor Hellebuck. However, the depth of the Leafs, I think, will really start to show in the playoffs, and especially if they can manage to end the playoff drought, because right now we haven't won a playoff round since 2004, which is absurd. But if we can manage to win a playoff round, win that first round against Montreal, and the amount of confidence our team would get from that is absolutely outstanding and completely could change a team and change how they play around. You look at our lineup, and it's so filled with depth from top to bottom. And now it's not just the superstars anymore, as I sort of alluded to at the beginning. We have the superstars, but we also have such depth and such veteran and such gritty pieces that I do actually think that this is a team that could play in the playoffs now. Not only do we have our Matthews, I was going to say McDavid's, our Matthews, our Marners, our Nylanders, our Tavares, those types of players. But now we also have guys like Wayne Simmons and Alex Galchenyuk, who's been surprisingly good. Jason Spezza, who's been very good. Joe Thornton, who as of late hasn't been unbelievable, but is still a very good veteran piece to have in your lineup that could be huge in the locker room for morale. We've been seeing the last few games that maybe he shouldn't be playing in every game because he hasn't been great. However, he's still such a good piece to have in your locker room and in your organization. Ilya Mikheyev is a very hardworking guy. Zach Hyman's very hardworking, and he could be a big help in the playoffs. And there's so much star power and depth power in this Leafs lineup that I actually do have faith. Like for once, I do have faith in them going into the playoffs that they could finally do something and make some noise in this playoffs. And I have them winning the North Division. I have them beating the Winnipeg Jets. As much as you look at Winnipeg's lineup, and I mentioned who they have in the opening round. But I'm still just going to go through it again because they are such a good team, and I don't want to take away from how good Winnipeg is. They have Pierre-Luc Dubois, Mark Scheifele, Blake Wheeler, Kyle Connor, Nikolai Ehlers, Neil Pionka, Josh Morrissey. They have so many good players, but it's still, I think the Leafs, their star power, I didn't even mention TJ Brody, one of the strongest defensive defensemen in the league, which is something the Leafs need. They need a strong defensive core. And that's what that player gives us. We have Zach Bogosian as well, who he isn't the best player in the league, but he could still he's won a cup before. He could add veteran leadership, and he could also be a gritty piece. And when he wants to, he could hit and be feisty. He's actually impressed me this year with how good he is. I know when we first got him, he's considered like a meme type player. Like there's a lot of jokes about him. But he's actually a very good defenseman. I actually really liked seeing him in the lineup.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe I should be more cautiously optimistic with this team. I should be more cautious, I guess. But I have a lot of faith in this Leafs team, and I think if there's any year the Leafs can make some noise in the playoffs, it is this year where it's such a weird format. It's such a weird year, and if the Leafs happen to win these first two rounds of the playoffs, they are guaranteed a spot in the Final Four. And once that happens, who knows? Anything could happen. So I do honestly, I'm gonna take the Leafs to win that first round against Montreal, and then again, I'm gonna take them to beat Connor Hellebuck and the Winnipeg Jets, and I'm gonna send them into the third round of the playoffs. I really have a lot of faith in this Toronto Maple Leafs team.
Yeah, definitely. The second matchup of the second round is Colorado versus Vegas. This is probably the biggest matchup like of any division facing each other. In my opinion, they're both been dominating their division. Colorado, obviously, with the players they have. I think Vegas has just I think Vegas has better just all-star players, but I think Colorado has more depth players on their team. With everyone they have, like we said before, they picked up Carlos Soderberg, and that probably just helped them with bottom six, which is still okay. But yeah, I in my opinion, I think Colorado's gonna win. I like the players they have, the team they've been this year, how they've been doing, their defense decor is just amazing, as well as their offense with everyone they have, like we said earlier, McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog. They've been amazing this year, especially helping the Avalanche out. In my opinion, I think I see Colorado moving on to the conference finals, facing whoever.
I mean, this is probably, I agree, it's probably the toughest series to predict because I honestly think any of these teams, any of Colorado or Vegas, are capable of winning a cup. And I honestly think that the winner of that matchup very well might end up winning the Stanley Cup. So it's very hard to predict. But I am going to disagree with you, actually. I'm taking the Vegas Golden Knights to win. And that's purely because I think they're more built for the playoffs. As much as since their first year in the season in NHL, they haven't gone on a deep playoff run. But I still think the players they have are just more defensively sound and more strong, and that is the recipe for success in the playoffs. I think you look at Colorado, and they're a lot more. They remind me a lot of the Leafs in a way, where they have a lot of star power, and yes, they do have a lot of depth behind that. They are currently the first place team in the league. They're going into the year, we're probably my cup favorite. But I just think the team that usually ends up winning the cup is usually a deep and a very strong team that can out-hit you, outwork you. And I just see more of that in Vegas than I do with Colorado. And for that reason, I think Vegas would be a much tougher opponent. Like if I'm looking at it from a Leafs fan's perspective, the team I would rather face is the Colorado Avalanche when compared to the Vegas Golden Knights. I think Vegas is just more of a tough team. And for that reason, I think Vegas would outwork the Colorado Avalanche, out-hit them, out-fight them, out-chance them, and ultimately, because they have a mix of star power and depth, veterans, and I don't know how they acquired such a good team in the short amount of time they've been in NHL, but regardless, I believe that they're finally going to go on a run. They're going to return to the conference finals, and as they did last year in 2020. And I do see them beating the Colorado Avalanche. And for the third year in a row, I have the Colorado Avalanche out in the second round. Really unfortunate for them because I do think they are a team that's capable of winning the cup. They are a very good team. But I just think if you're looking at a team more filled with stars and big name guys who everyone is picking to win the cup, or you look at a team that's very strong and heavy and quick and wears you down, I think that's the team I'm more taking to move on in the playoffs. And for that reason, I am going with the Vegas Golden Knights to move on to that third round.
Okay, so I think that's our first. Well, it's not our first matchup that we have differently, but our conference finals might be different. As I'm looking at this, I think. Okay, no, my bad. The next matchup is the Capitals versus the Islanders. Obviously, the Islanders have been doing really good this year with the players they have, but I think Washington, they're just an amazing team. In the Manta trade, obviously, they did give up Verona and Panik. I don't really know how to pronounce his name fully. I don't know.
I believe it's Panik or Panik. I'm not sure.
Yeah. But yeah. I think Washington is just an amazing team with the players they have. Backstrom and Kuznetsov, those amazing. But Backstrom and Kuznetsov definitely amazing centers. But I think the first line in Washington's first line is arguably one of the best lines in the East Division. I think, in my opinion, with Ovi, I think it's Kuznetsov and Tom Wilson. I think that's a big part of Washington doing good this year, and I think it's going to be a big part of Washington going to the conference finals. I think Washington they've been an outstanding team this year. They might even be looking for that second cup if they can do really good.
So I agree with you. I'm also going to go with the Washington Capitals there. As much as for the reasoning I said in my Vegas versus Colorado, I could very easily say the New York Islanders will move on because they remind me of that similar to Vegas team where they're deep and hard to play and they outwork you and outchance you. And they don't have as many big name guys. They're more of just a defensively sound, responsible team that outworks you and ends up moving on. So I can very well go with the Islanders to move on. I think this would be an absolute war of a series, probably a 7-game series. However, call it a gut feeling. As I mentioned earlier, I think the Washington Capitals are going on a run this year. And for that reason, I think it's going to be the Washington Capitals moving on to the conference finals. Again, if things go a little bit differently, I could very easily see the New York Islanders moving on to the conference finals as they did last year. They're such a strong team. This is in no way to discredit what the New York Islanders are capable of, because they not only they now acquired Paul Mary and Travis Zajac, but they already had guys like Anders Lee and Matthew Barzal. They are such a strong team overall, but I just think that the Washington Capitals, I feel like there's going to be one more cup run with that core, with Alex Ovechkin, who honestly might not return. So they have Ovechkin and Kuznetsov, and Backstrom is their main core. They just acquired Mantha, of course, and they have a very good lineup overall with Tom Wilson and many other players. I just see the Washington Capitals moving on to the third round in the conference finals, representing the East Division. As much as I hesitate to keep picking the division winners, but I just really see the Washington Capitals had an outstanding regular season, and I don't see it falling off during the playoffs. I really think this is a team that has one last cup run in them. And even though I'm not going to say what my prediction ultimately is, but I'm not guaranteeing that I'm picking them to win the cup. I'm just saying I could see another cup run in them. They're a very strong and deep team, but also they could really be carried on the back of their superstars. And I do think that's what's going to happen here. In most cases, it's usually the hardworking and strong team usually ends up winning, which is my reasoning for taking Vegas over Colorado. But call it a gut feeling. I am taking Washington to beat the New York Islanders in this series and go to the conference final.
Yeah, for sure. Do you want to start the next one?
Sure. So then the next matchup would be the Tampa Bay Lightning taking on the Florida Panthers. And to be honest, whether it be the Florida Panthers or the Carolina Hurricanes, I think no matter what, Tampa Bay is just by far the best team in the Central Division. I think no matter who they play in that series, they are absolutely going to feast on them. Will it be a sweep? We don't know yet, but it won't be pretty no matter who plays them. I really don't see any team in that division being able to eliminate the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're just such a strong team in all aspects of the game, as I keep mentioning with some of the best teams in the league, where they're strong in terms of depth and strong defensively and offensively and in star power. They check all the boxes. They do everything. They're the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're the reigning Stanley Cup champions. You can't really knock them at all. Like, they are such a strong team, and I really think especially I have them winning that first round against Nashville. They'll get a little bit of confidence from that. Okay, we won a round. And then I don't see them wanting to slow down at all. Yes, they won a cup last year, but I don't think they're stopping. I think they won another cup, and I think it's going to continue with them taking on the Florida Panthers. They aren't taking any mercy. They're going to play the Florida Panthers like they're the best team in the league, because they arguably are the best team in the league. And I really just see them moving on against Florida and going to the conference finals, where we'll talk about how we reseed everything, because in the third round there's reseeding. So we'll say who they end up playing. But I think that third round series will be unbelievable, because I do see them beating Florida and moving on into the third round.
Yeah, so my matchup is just a slight difference. Like I said, I have Carolina instead. But yeah, like you said, no matter what team, Carolina or Florida, Tampa Bay is just gonna beat those teams. Tampa Bay is just, they're definitely. I think with these division changing, I think maybe Tampa. I think that Central Division might be even a bit unfair if Tampa can get better with Kucherov coming back. I think Tampa's just an amazing team. I don't know, they're just too good. It's too good. I think they're just an amazing team. They're definitely runners for the cup, in my opinion. They definitely have a big chance of winning the cup this year. So we'll see what happens.
Yep. And then should I say how I reseeded the conference finals?
Sure.
Yeah, so how the conference finals works is it's going to be one first seed. So in the regular season, they'll look at the standings at the end of the year. Whoever finished first out of the final four teams is the first seed. Whoever finished second is the second seed, and so on. So it's going to be first seed versus fourth seed, second seed versus third seed. So if you look at the four teams in the final four, so it's Vegas, Washington, Toronto, and Tampa Bay. If you look at the seedings as of they are today, Of course, they can change. There's still about a dozen games left in the regular season. However, if you take everything as it is today, it would be Vegas versus the Tampa Bay Lightning in the conference finals. In the first match, so it's first seed Vegas Golden Knights, fourth seed Tampa Bay Lightning. And then the 2 versus 3 seed, it's the Washington Capitals are the 2 seed, and the Toronto Maple Leafs are the 3 seed. So to start it off, in my Vegas Golden Knights versus Tampa Bay Lightning matchup, as much as Tampa is such a good team and they just won the Cup last year, I am actually going to take the Vegas Golden Knights to eliminate them and to make the conference finals. To make the Stanley Cup Finals, actually. I think as much as Tampa is more stacked in terms of star power, I think the fact that Vegas has not only the star power in their guys like Stone and Pacioretty, which arguably aren't as good as a guy like Stamkos and Kucherov, I just think the depth on Vegas is stronger than the depth on Tampa. And they are more built for playoff hockey, as much as it's hard to say, more built for playoff hockey, because the reigning Stanley Cup champions are the Tampa Bay Lightning. However, I just see Vegas having an unbelievable playoffs, making the Stanley Cup Finals for the second time since they've been a team in the NHL. And I do see them eliminating the Tampa Bay Lightning. It really comes down to who is that stronger team? Who would I want the Leafs to play least? If I'm talking from a Leafs fan perspective, which I am a Leafs fan, and it ultimately is the Vegas Golden Knights are the team I would want to play less. Because if you look at the Leafs compared to a team like Tampa, it's really both teams are very offensive heavy, and it's just the goal there is outscore Tampa. When it comes to Vegas, as much as they do have scores, their overall mantra of their team is we're going to out-hit you and grind you and make sure we just eliminate you and make it so you can't play properly. And that is what Vegas will do. And that is not the type of team you're going to want to be playing in the playoffs. They're such a strong team. They know how to outwork teams. And ultimately, I do have them outworking and eliminating the Tampa Bay Lightning, the reigning Stanley Cup champions, and making the Stanley Cup final.
All right, so for my thing, the only thing that's different is that Colorado's instead of Vegas, because Colorado and Vegas are first and second in the league right now, as of when we're recording. So mine would be Colorado versus Tampa. In my opinion, I think Tampa's gonna win. Colorado, yeah, I agree with you. If it was Vegas, I think Vegas would win. But yeah, I think Colorado's gonna win. Even though Colorado's been doing really good, Tampa Bay is just Tampa Bay. It's so many good players, like you said, like they're very offensive, great offensive players, great defensive players, great goalie. I mean, their backup goalie is questionable with Curtis McElhinney. I think Tampa Bay should have traded for Jonathan Bernier or something. If they traded for Bernier, that would have really helped them. But yeah, I think Tampa's just I think they're just one of the best teams. In Tampa Bay Lightning, well, it's hard to say because I don't really know about this, but in Tampa Bay Lightning history, they're probably one of the best Tampa Bay Lightning teams in a while, and they've just been playing super good. You talked about earlier, the Columbus match, that was just, nobody knew what that was. They just completely fluked there. But next year, obviously, they won the Cup, and I think definitely they are going to the Stanley Cup Finals to face whatever team I choose.
Yeah, so then on the other side of the bracket, it's going to be the second seed Washington Capitals versus the third seed Toronto Maple Leafs. And as much as I've been really hyping up the Washington Capitals, I think they are such a good team, such a strong team. And I do really have a gut feeling that they're going to go on a big run this year. I ultimately do have the Toronto Maple Leafs eliminating them and making the Stanley Cup final for the first time since, I believe, 1967. This is the best Leafs team I've seen in my lifetime, and it is the best Leafs team that we have had in probably since they last won the Cup. Obviously, I don't know that. I don't know entirely what the teams were like during the 80s and 90s. However, just looking on paper, this is the most stacked Leafs team that we have seen in many, many years. And I really think they check all the boxes in the sense that they have the grit now, they have the veteran presence, and they obviously have the elite goal scoring and an elite talent of guys like Matthews and Marner and Nylander and Tavares. So they have the star power, they have the depth, they have the grit. And I do think they are a team that can compete in the playoffs and can ultimately eliminate the Washington Capitals and make the Stanley Cup final. I think a Stanley Cup final of Vegas-Toronto would be really tough. However, we'll get to that after. But in the third round, if it's just Toronto versus Washington, well, you look at, so in the Leafs year in 2016-17, where we were practically all rookies, that was it. It was Matthews' rookie year, Marner's rookie year, Hyman's rookie year, and all of that. We were able to take the Washington Capitals to 6 games in the series. We were the last seed in the Atlantic, or in the East, and they were the President's Trophy winners. So the fact that with that team, we were able to take them to 6 games, I think our team today is so much better than that roster. And I ultimately do have a lot of faith that if the Leafs could win the first round against Montreal, they could win in the round against Winnipeg, they'd have all the confidence they're making round 3. And at that point in the Final Four, anything could happen. I do see it continuing and they move on to the Stanley Cup Finals. Again, I'm hesitant to make these predictions because I don't want to be the one to say anything. I don't want to be the one to jinx it. But I don't know. I have a ton of faith in the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I really see a really good playoff run from them. Not guaranteeing I'm going to pick them to win the cup. I'm not going to be just the bias that's guaranteed, oh, the Leafs are winning it, the Leafs are winning it. However, if there's any Leafs team that could do it, it would be this team. This is such a strong Leafs team, and ultimately I do have them eliminating the Washington Capitals and moving on to the Stanley Cup Final where they'll meet the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, so I have to agree with you there. This Leafs team, like you've been saying, this Leafs team is just amazing with the core they have. You basically just repeating what you're saying, like the vets, definitely the depth with the players they have. This is probably the best Leafs team since 1967. I think they even topped the Doug Gilmour era. And with Doug Gilmour, obviously they were quite good. But yeah, the Leafs. I think they have more depth. I think they just are a better team than Washington this year, even though Washington has more points than them. I think Toronto is just showing that they can definitely beat any team if that goes in their way. Like in the season, I think it's kind of sad to see that we're not that good against Ottawa, which is one of the worst teams in the league right now. But yeah, I think Toronto is better against better teams. Like obviously Washington is a better team. Well, actually, not better. I mean better by a good team. I just see Toronto going all in, or Coach Sheldon Keefe doing what he can to get the Leafs team move to the Stanley Cup Finals. So yeah, I think the Leafs are gonna win.
Okay, now are we gonna do Stanley Cup Final predictions?
Yeah.
Okay, so I could start that off. Okay, so again, based on all of my matchups, I had it being on one side of the bracket, it is the Vegas Golden Knights. On the other side of the bracket, it is the Toronto Maple Leafs. And as much as I have a ton of faith in the Toronto Maple Leafs, and this is the farthest they've gone in years, if they made the Stanley Cup Finals, Toronto would be absolutely buzzing. It would be an unbelievable sight to see. I do ultimately have them falling short slightly and losing to the Vegas Golden Knights in the Stanley Cup Finals, with the Vegas Golden Knights being your Stanley Cup champions for 2021. And the reason for this is if Toronto's playing a team such as Tampa Bay or Washington, these are the matchups where I could see the Leafs winning because it's offensive-heavy teams. And the Leafs could they'd be relying on their guys like Matthews to outscore these guys. And I think that's something they could do. And if it's a very offense-heavy series, I think this bodes very well for the Leafs. However, we have seen from the Leafs playing teams like Boston in the past and Columbus in the past who are very defensive heavy. They don't do very well, especially in the playoffs, against teams like this. And that's why if the Leafs, they don't actually happen to play the New York Islanders in my matchup. However, if they were to face the New York Islanders, that's a matchup I could see the Leafs losing. Ultimately, I have them playing the Vegas Golden Knights, and that's a matchup I see them losing. The Leafs don't do very well against the very defensive-heavy teams. And as much as they've improved their defense a lot, I still don't think they're strong enough of a team to defend against a team like Vegas or against the Islanders or against the Bruins and things like that. And for that reason, unfortunately, I would be crushed if this happened because I made it all the way to the Stanley Cup Final, got all of the city of Toronto's hopes up, and ultimately fell short. It would be so disappointing. However, what a run it would be if they do end up making it this far, and it would be so exciting. But unfortunately, I just don't see them being able to beat the Vegas Golden Knights and move on. Again, if a team like Tampa is in this position, a team like Colorado is in this position, or Washington maybe, I think depending on how the matchup and how the bracket shapes up, there's a chance that the Leafs could actually do the thing. I'm using the words of Steve Dangle. I don't want to actually say the thing. I don't want to jinx it, but he always says, "Oh, they're gonna do the thing." So I've started using that as well. I think there's a chance they could do the thing this year. If there's any Leafs team that's going to do it, it would be this year. However, when I'm making my predictions, I just can't, with 100% confidence, say they are going to be the Stanley Cup champion this year. I believe it can happen. I believe it's a possibility. I'm not ruling it out. I have a ton of a ridiculous amount of faith in this team, and I've been defending them all year. They've been such a good team. They've been so excited to watch, even after they've had a few areas in the season where they've fallen off a little bit, but they've been able to bounce right back, and they've remained at the top of the North Division for essentially the entire start of the year. Or not even, we're just about nearing the end of the year, and they've still remained the top team in the North for pretty much the entire year. This would be such a good year, even if they ultimately don't win the Cup. As disappointing as it would be, I think there would be no question that everyone would be very positive in Leafs Nation if they make the Stanley Cup Finals. I think they're such a good team. It would be so exciting if they made it this far. But ultimately, Vegas is just too strong, too tough. They have enough star power, depth, defensive ability. Their goaltending tandem is absolutely ridiculous. I think they have all the pieces of a Cup winner. And again, it's crazy. This is their fourth year in the NHL. I was thinking about it. This would be their fourth playoff run as a franchise. If they could win a cup within their first 5 years, that's absolutely unbelievable. And I do think if there's any expansion team that's going to do it, it would be this expansion team. I mean, they've been so good, so unbelievable. They have guys like Mark Stone, William Karlsson, Max Pacioretty. You look at their goaltending of Robin Lehner and Marc-Andre Fleury. In every single aspect of the game, the Vegas Golden Knights are a true elite team, a true contender. And I think they would take on the Leafs and ultimately beat the Leafs in probably a 6 or 7 game series. But I have the Vegas Golden Knights winning the Stanley Cup in 2021.
Yeah. So if I had yours, I'd say one of those teams will win Game 7. But I think my chair's being squeaky right now. It's kind of weird. But like you've been saying, Toronto and Tampa Bay are both very offensive teams. I think they're almost identical in my opinion. With the players they have those all-stars, and then they have those depth. I think, and overall, I think Toronto is gonna beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. Tampa Bay hasn't played this Toronto team yet, and I think I would see Toronto just being a better team in general with the players they have. The defense, I'd say. Tampa probably has better defense, but I think Toronto has just been amazing this year with what they've done. I think everyone was also expecting them to be on top of the North this year, which they are. It's been a bit of a mix-up. Like at one point, Montreal was doing really good, and now Winnipeg's doing really good. But Toronto has been keeping that spot, and hopefully they can keep it for the rest of the season. Tampa Bay is an amazing team also, but Toronto, I think they have everything in them to push all the way and win the Stanley Cup and be the Stanley Cup champions in 2021.
I mean, I hope so. If there's any year the Leafs could do it, it would be this year. However, just thinking realistically, it all depends on who they have to play. I do think if it's a Stanley Cup final of Leafs versus Capitals, Leafs versus Tampa, or Leafs versus Colorado, these are very much matchups where I think I'd take the Leafs to win it. However, if the Leafs have to face a very defensive-heavy team such as Boston or the Islanders or Vegas, I just don't see how they defend against that in 7 games. I think there's a chance, actually, the Leafs can beat Boston. I think the Leafs, I'd now say, are the stronger team when compared to Boston, but at that point, there's the worry that it would honestly be a mental thing where it's oh, we've lost to these guys every year. How are we going to beat them? And we'd end up collapsing at the end, kind of like we've done in every Game 7. But I don't know. I do have a ton of faith in the Leafs. I I think there's a chance they could do it. I'm so excited to get the playoffs underway. It's just ultimately, if they end up having to play a team like Vegas, I just don't see how they beat that team in a 7-game series. It would be close. I think the Leafs are such an improved team. And again, I have a ton of faith. I have all the confidence that they can do it. It's just if I'm making a realistic prediction, is it so likely that they're going to be able to outwork and outchance and outplay a team like the Vegas Golden Knights for 7 games? And I just don't know how likely that is. But I hope so, and I respect the confidence that you're picking the Leafs to win it all. Actually, I believe when I was doing a podcast with your brother going into the season, like with Dylan, I believe I actually did have the Leafs winning it all going into the year. However, after looking at them, they've been unbelievable in the North Division, but we just don't know how they're going to fare against the teams in the other divisions. And just looking at rosters and how different rosters are constructed, I think the Leafs are one of the best of the offense-heavy teams. But if they have to play a very defensive-heavy team, I just don't know how they win that series, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I think that is gonna be it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully this probably will. I will be going on with this, but hopefully you guys enjoy this first episode, and hopefully we come out with another one too. You want to say anything before we end?
Yeah, bye. Thank you for listening. And Max, thanks for having me on. It was a great time. I had a great time being on the Rebel Devil podcast, and I hope to be on soon again.
Yeah, no problem. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully I'll start posting again more, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.